What is the one question? I think most of us are generally concerned with one question. There is a primary question in our brain that we are always trying to answer. Am I lovable? Will I fail? Am I good enough? All of those unhelpful questions. And I think you can reprogram that question. I think you can ask yourself a much better question. What is the best version of myself? What action should I take today to get closer to who I really want to be, who I really am? What if I keep showing up, who am I going to be? Who do I really want to be in my mind's eye? What is available to me? That might be the best question.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Callen.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Holy moly, I can't believe I had this chat. Bryan is the real deal, with an incredible mind, with a thirst for knowledge and philosophical truths. It blows my mind how deep Bryan is, and his desire to grow and improve. You can see why he's the top of his field. He's very well versed in history and philosophical teachings. He has this way of speaking which hits you in your soul and empowers you to keep moving forward in life. I also love one of his life themes, truth. He tries to live his life in authentic truth, which is a really interesting way to be, and certainly sparks the imagination for a better way to interact with the world. He has a very contagious mindset, which can only empower you. Small PSA, the audio does lag occasionally at the very start, but it levels itself shortly afterwards. Okay, let's get into it. Bryan Callen is an actor, comedian, podcaster, and writer. He is most well known for the beloved role of Coach Mellor on the Goldbergs and ABC's Schooled. He has appeared on shows such as Oz, NewsRadio, Kingdom, Two Broke Girls, Sex and the City, MADTv, Frasier, Reba, NYPD Blue, The West Wing, Las Vegas, Fat Actress, The King of Queens, How I Met Your Mother, CSI Miami, Death Valley, In Plain Sight, CSI, Sullivan and Son, Entourage, Californication, and plenty more. He's also appeared in films such as Joker, The Hangover Part 2, Think Like a Dog, Ride Along, Flock of Dudes, Dirty Lies, Old School, Bad Santa, Scary Movie 4, The Good, Live Hard, Sell Hard, Warrior, About Last Night, Walk of Shame, My Man is a Loser, Planes, Fire and Rescue, and many more. As a veteran headliner, Bryan is also known for his work in theatre and comedy clubs around the world, but most people know him as one of Los Angeles' favourite comics. He has a new comedy special coming out soon, so keep your eyes out. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about his thirst for knowledge and desire to grow, being the hero in your own story, masculinity, comedy, rejection, asking the tough internal questions and lying to yourself, the Goldbergs, his upcoming comedy special, being harsh on himself, plus plenty more. Before we get into this epic chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Callen. That's Callen with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out at 3:30 Melbourne, Australian time, with the full video of the podcast to be released the following day. Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's get into it. You've got a new comedy special coming out and you think it's the best thing you've ever done. That is so exciting to hear. Can you tell me a bit more about it?
Well, it's just, what I love about writing and I think if you just keep showing up and you keep trying to tell the truth, or maybe your subconscious, Jung said something interesting. He said, if you don't bring what is in the subconscious to the conscious mind, it will play out as fate in your life.
Ooh.
And I believe that. I think what happens when you try to write more than just comedy, when you write from a place that is very personal, right? So you'll have these instincts, you'll have these biases, you'll have these feelings about something, right? I saw a guy in a dress with a beard, and I immediately triggered me. And so I wanted to know why it triggered me. You know, you start going down the rabbit hole of your life and who you really are. And you start to say, you know, I might be as big a problem in the world as everybody I criticize. How about that? Maybe
Nice.
I'm not the star of this movie, and maybe I'm not the hero. Maybe I'm just another a-hole trying to get from point A to point B the best way he knows how. And I'm not even conscious of why I do most of what I do. And that's an interesting place to go, right? But what's interesting is if you keep showing up and writing from that place, if you keep asking questions that are uncomfortable, you know, you might find that the hour-long special that you have created has a theme. And when I say theme, let's define it. It's the author's argument for how you should behave in the world, probably.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I just think it's fun to come to that conclusion. It's fun to realize, holy shit, I think I did something here. And I said that to my wife. I go, I don't care what happens. Maybe nobody will ever see it. Maybe I die tomorrow. But at least I know that I did something constructive. At least I surprised myself. That's all, you know, that's a pretty cool reward, man. It really is. Make crazy money has its own trappings and its own rewards. But man, nothing compares to knowing that you did something original, if I dare say that. And I don't know if I'm right, but I feel that way.
I think that's the most
And
important thing.
I'm a big critic.
Oh, you're a big critic of yourself.
Yeah.
I want to hear that because
I
I've
am.
heard you over the years of your career, and you've talked about not necessarily loving yourself and the journey there. But I think it's so amazing. There's so many points I've just written down, and you're speaking my language. This is very exciting. But to look deep within the subconscious, that is very scary. I studied this for a few years via kinesiology, and it's very scary to see what comes up. And I'm not saying that I'm amazing and I've uncovered everything, but to look deep within yourself, a lot of stuff comes up, a lot of stuff we've buried, all of that. And a lot of people, no judgment, they're pretty scared to get into that. Why have you decided to really make this a theme in your life?
Because I didn't have a choice, because the two words that I'm trying to, the words I suppose that I want to underpin my life is strength and truth. I don't want to lie about anything anymore. I only want to tell the truth, and I want to get stronger and stronger. I know that sounds dramatic, okay? It sounds dramatic, but maybe, you know, I walked around for most of my life thinking I was one of God's favorites. And what I mean by that is, you know, I was Peter Pan who could get away with just being basically a jackass, not taking things too seriously. And I did pretty well. Right? I mean, I always had a bit of a work ethic and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it wasn't a work ethic. Maybe it's just competitive and I wanted to be on the varsity team and I hated sitting on the bench. Okay, so I'm not going to give myself any credit. But I think it's a positive thing that when I see myself, when I see pictures of myself, when I see video of myself, even 4 years ago, I kind of cringe. I don't like that guy. I certainly don't like that guy as much as I like this guy. So I've never said that out loud. I don't think I've said that yet on a podcast or anywhere, but I said it to my wife and I said it to a couple of other close friends. So I may as well just say it to you. It's like, you know, I guess that's kind of a weird thing to say, but you know, maybe, you know, Bill, well, you shouldn't be hard on yourself. Well, you know, maybe I should be. And it's not that I was a bad person. Okay. I wasn't a bad person. I've never done things that I'm not, you know, but I guess you get away with a lot when you're younger.
We all have a shadow side and we all do things. We all have thoughts. We all don't show up with 100% intentions and do the best things possible. So I think that's also important to acknowledge as well.
It is, man. It is. You have to be kind to yourself. And I'm not very kind to myself sometimes, but I think you're right, man. I think you're right. I guess you know, maybe when you're younger, you walk around with a lot of shame. right? Because you're just uncomfortable in your own body, it's really hard to be successful at anything, right?
Yeah.
Most of your efforts fall short. I kind of say, I guess I certainly was a lot more wrong than I was right. I had a lot of opinions. I spent a way more time talking than I did listening. Moving, I spent a lot more time moving generally than I did sitting still.
Interesting.
And I wasn't always truthful to myself. I heard Elon Musk say that his biggest flaw is he suffers from wishful thinking. Yeah, me too. Like, like, oh, it'll work itself out. It's all right. No, it won't. No, it won't. No, it won't. So, yeah.
I find that very interesting. No, go on.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm talking, and sometimes when I talk, I feel like I'm kind of like I'm figuring it out as I speak.
Yeah. I think that's also how I do it, and that's why podcasting's so powerful. And you've done, I don't know, 10,000 podcasts probably. But isn't that how we learn and grow? I know there's different like types. I do screenwriting, and I need to talk out what I'm trying to write before I can actually write it down, because what I have written down is not necessarily what's in my mind. And that's just a tool for me. It's very, very empowering.
Yeah. Well, maybe I can sum it all up though. Like instead of getting into this whole thing, well, I second guess, we're all, human beings are flawed. The shortcut is just to tell the truth in general. And we're all lying in one way, right? Like, one thing I can say is there's no lies in my life, but you're lying in one way. You're in a relationship you shouldn't be in, right? Or you're doing a job you don't like. It's really easy to fall into at least a partial lie in your life. Definitely. It really is. And sometimes, man, you stay there because there are other people that rely on you, and you've got to just make do with what you have to make do. You have to. Sometimes harmony is better than truth. You got to keep the harmony in the room, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's so, and I'm guilty of this, we're all guilty of this, it can be so hard to actually make that call. One, to have the awareness, but it sounds like once you've got that awareness, you spring to action. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, but because doing the right thing is not easy, and doing the right thing doesn't mean you're not going to pay a price.
Yes, definitely.
Right? Like, seriously, like, well, the movies we love are the person does the right thing and walks away with none of the treasure. But we're all like, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes the person does the right thing and they die, and we like cry, but we're like, fuck, yeah, you did it, a hero, right? I mean,
yeah.
So, yeah, we got pretty dramatic pretty quickly here.
Yeah, I love it. But also with the truth, it's a very interesting concept, because there can be sometimes short-term pain, but long-term gain. And it can be very, when you speak your truth, you act in your truth. You mentioned, I know you weren't talking about you, but like a relationship that you're not meant to be in, whether it's a friend or something else, there are ramifications, and it can be painful, that splitting up of a friend or whatever it is. But then long-term, you're like, thank God I don't have that in my life. But that initial pain is so scary and terrifying for the many that we just can be stuck in fight or flight.
Yes. But it works out. It does work out if you stay the course. I think it works out. It becomes this like new equilibrium to your life, right?
Yeah.
Like, your life can be in chaos, and you'll tell the truth. And it's like when you kill a vampire. It's like when I think Jordan Peterson talks about burning off the worst, the fake and worst parts of yourself. And sometimes that's like 95% of yourself. But man, that 5%, when you're done with the fire, you'll achieve a new equilibrium, and I promise you'll have some peace. So, peace of mind.
You've mentioned in the last few years that there's been a bit of a change of appreciating and being more kind to yourself. Is there anything that's changed? Are you doing anything different?
Yeah, I'm telling the truth. Yeah, I'm 100% truthful. I've always been pretty damn honest. Okay, yeah. But I'm trying to be like, I'm talking about just fucking no lies ever about anything. And I'm talking mainly to yourself, man.
Yeah.
That's where you start to like yourself. You're like, all right, I'm doing what's difficult. I'm not doing what feels good. I'm doing what is good.
What's really interesting? I've been a perpetual people pleaser. And so if someone gives me a script to read And most
Yeah.
people, they just go, oh, that's so great. It's so nice. But you're actually doing the person a disservice. It's like,
Yes.
hey, look, there's some great bits, there's some not so great bits. And I've been reading heaps of scripts recently, and I won't just say it's fantastic. I'll give some, even though it's hard to go, it's absolutely shit. I'll never do that. But I say, here's what's good, but here's what's not good. And we all want to be seen as nice, but it's actually, to me, being nice for the sake of it is actually being mean. I've had to
Yeah.
reframe that as well. My relationships are better for it as well.
Yeah, man. Good for you. Good for you, because that's exactly what people need. They need not only criticism, but how to get out of it, or at least they need an honest opinion. They just need an
Yes.
honest opinion. It's really, really important. It's like, no, this isn't good.
I've
Well,
lost you.
there's nothing
Oh,
wrong
yeah,
with
yeah.
encouragement, but your encouragement should be earned. Your encouragement should be earned, right?
I feel like you surround yourself with, and I heard on another podcast that you didn't used to, so I'm interested to hear that you surround yourself with people that also kind of keep you accountable, and you can explore ideas, exchange, you can be yourself and be authentic. Whereas many years ago, you didn't necessarily surround yourself with those type of people. So there's also been a bit of a shift over the years with, are you very mindful with who you spend your time with, your energy and all of that stuff as well?
I guess so, but I'm getting to an age, man, where my wife keeps me accountable. My
Nice.
kids, yeah, you get to an age like, you never hear a 57-year-old man say. You never hear him say, "Bro, this summer's gonna be sick," or you know what else you never hear him say? You never hear him say, "I got a party for us this weekend." Like, hey, bro, I got kids,
Yeah.
okay? I got no time, so there's not a lot of hangout time.
No, but whether it's, a podcast, I know you've spoken about, you might have like watching UFC or whatever it is, there's still the comedy clubs, all of that. There's still an accountability within those
Yes,
environments.
yes, yes. I think so. I think it's important. I learned that from Rogan. Rogan's ruthless about who he spends his time with, because any nonsense is not tolerated, because for him, he's afraid it's going to rub off on him. He's afraid it's
Oh,
going to it'll give him a false sense of security, right? So he doesn't like being around. When he sees somebody who's lying or fake or just not taking themselves or their life seriously, he gets the fuck out of there. Like he's allergic, like it's a corpse with a bad disease festering in it. He doesn't want. It's almost like, I don't want to catch that. I might catch something from that corpse over there. I'm serious.
yeah,
He's
no.
ruthless about it, and I've never been. I would have saved myself a great deal of time if I had been as uh, uh, ruthless with who I chose to spend time with. If I had held people to a much higher standard.
But it
Yeah.
sounds like you have been doing that over the years. And I actually heard in one of the Joe Rogan podcasts, this was probably like 10 years ago, that he helped you, I don't know what the right word is, but like transition out of some toxic environments. And do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. I mean, he always did. But I wouldn't listen to him a lot of times. I was, again, suffering from wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, I can change that person, or I'll change, or no, it'll work out. There's this thing that again, that's called lying. You don't want to face the reality. And so what you do is you go, oh, it'll be fine. La, 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 la. That's lying. That's called lying.
Yeah. I'm very intrigued. Are you a meditator? What do you do? I know you've got obviously a wife that keeps you accountable. You're very well read. You surround yourself with very interesting people. You learn from the best on your podcast. Give me a summary. There has to be something where you're allowing this stream of consciousness and you can embody it.
Yeah, well, I'm very interested in the idea behind the fact that I'm not my mind, I'm not my emotions, and I'm not my body. I can witness that. I can cultivate that witness. I can sort of associate with that side of myself that you only see out of the corner of your eye.
Yeah.
The witness. Think about this for a second. I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know if this is a Buddhist concept, but I said this to my friend who studies Vedanta and Buddhism. I said, it dawned on me that I'm going to say goodbye to myself eventually. When I meet my maker. It might happen very quickly. I won't have time. But if I do have time, as you get older, you're eventually going to say, well, this has been wild, man. I'll see you later, Bryan. I'll see you later, whoever this body is and this emotion, these memories. But who's saying goodbye? You know, who is it that's saying the goodbye? That's an interesting question. So when you start getting into trying to define where yourself is, who you are, where you are hearing me from, where you are seeing me from, where are you listening to me from, trying to locate the seat of your attention is a very probably impossible. Yeah. I'm intrigued by that. I'm intrigued by that impossibility. I'll just leave it. I'll say that. I'm far from a bodhisattva here, but I think that's a worthy question.
I agree. And, you know, this also springs to mind in terms of the different voices we hear in our head. You know, you're talking about we're not necessarily our thoughts. We have so many thoughts. We might hear a voice and that could be our father being like, don't do this. Or we might be hearing what people say. There's different lines of thinking, like your higher self or your godlike version or your inner child, all these different voices, your ego voice, and being able to differentiate between those voices as well. Do you know what I'm talking about? I can see you.
Let me dilate on that for a sec. Okay, so if you let's just take the Bible. Right? Let's take the Judeo-Christian ethic. If you read the Old Testament, right, and less so the New, but really the same. If you really look at the central theme of the Old Testament, I would make the argument that the number one commandment in one way or another, and in fact it is to not worship false gods. The Israelites were constantly being essentially chided and punished for worshiping false gods. Yeah. And that God could have been money, it could have been a golden calf, it could have been simply, commerce, whatever it was. They kept forgetting that they had a covenant. And so God would send he'd send a prophet, and the prophet would say, guys, you got to get it together, man. I mean, this is like you guys are having sex and just drinking, and you've forgotten about being the responsibility of being the chosen people. And the Assyrians are coming, and sure enough, the Assyrians are coming and enslave them. And then, I'm sorry, and then they come back to Jerusalem, and then they'd get another 50 years, and they'd be fucking up again. And another prophet would come and go, like Ezekiel would be like, guys, I'm telling you, the Persians are coming, they're going to enslave you, and the Persians would come. And then the Romans, and so it was always the Babylonians. It was always somebody, right? And the idea was, look, man, when you worship false gods, it's a form also. One of those gods can be yourself. One of those gods is the god of status, the god of power, and the god of money, right? And because you're identifying with the self, so. I just find it very interesting whenever I read about Buddhism or Vedanta, if I read about, the Upanishads, or I read the Bible or the New Testament, that seems to be the cross-pollination. That message, kind of back up here, but that one thing, that one rule seems to constantly rear its head. I would make the argument that is the connective tissue between the East and the Western mythologies.
Yeah.
So that's just an interesting question. It's an interesting thing to think about.
It sounds like when you wake up, you ask yourself, whether you're here in your own journey, those type of questions. Is this what gets you out of bed? These lifelong questions. Is there a thirst to unlock it, or is it more the deep understanding within yourself?
If I was younger, I would say yes, but really, no. Maybe what I'm interested in is just being original. I like the notion of original self-expression. I want to surprise myself. I want to do things I didn't think I had in me. Right? So, and maybe that in a way is sort of in service of art, originality, doing something that people haven't seen before. I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but it's a worthy reach.
I agree. I think it's the one thing that we've got within ourselves, and we, depending how deep you want to go into it, but society kind of, well, at least I felt that to be your true self has been a challenge, in that sometimes you can get arrows in the back. People react, or you show triggers to other people, anger is a mirror, all of these things that it can be seen to be quite difficult to follow who you are, your joy, your inner bliss, what makes you, you, and that the rewards are plentiful. And you're a perfect example of following you over the years to be able to do all the things that you've done. You wouldn't be able to get there without, going back to that self-expression and that creativity. And I wonder, was it always like that, starting out at Goldman Sachs, where, you did that for a couple of years? When did you kind of like realize,
But remember, at Goldman Sachs, I didn't work at Goldman Sachs as a Goldman Sachs guy. I was a temp. Yep. I wasn't smart enough to work at Goldman Sachs, right?
Yeah.
But I think you know what, man. You know what you get as you get older. I think what the major lesson, as I think about it, is that everything bad that's happened to me might have been the best thing that happened to me. Like, yes. I'm telling you, man. I know people say this, but listen, if you're going through a hard time, right, just navigate it, man. Stick with it. Everything is figure outable. Everything. And whatever you're going through, like if it sucks, I'm talking about sometimes you feel like you're in the middle of the ocean without a paddle and the storm is raging and you don't know how to get back to land. You don't know how to do it, man. There's no playbook here. You're alone. Those are the best. Those are the moments that will make you. And don't let them break you. Don't. Stay the course and they will make you. You will figure things out. You will figure things out about yourself and you'll figure things out about life. And you'll look back on it, man, and be like, wow, man, I am way more realized than I would have been otherwise. Comfort is not your friend. Struggle and, uncertainty and discomfort and pain are what forge you into the person that you want to be. And I promise you, anybody who was your hero or is your hero has had to face chaos and has had to figure out how to make good, how to be a shapeshifter in that world.
It's a great word.
I really mean that. So I guess that's my ode to anybody struggling.
Thank you. You can be a co-host of this podcast. That's exactly why I do it here. And, it's not just empty words because, there's a few examples that spring to mind, but I heard you on another podcast as well. And one of the guests, talked about post-traumatic growth. And I have a quote of yours, and we don't need to get into the specifics, but I'd love to learn about your learnings. But you wrote, who are you when destruction happens? Who are you when chaos hits? Who are you when everything is taken after 30 years? And from that, we're not excusing other bad behaviors, to put it lightly, but the journey and the growth that you learnt from a horrific experience. I'd love to know how you showed up to yourself.
Well, first of all, I will say this. I didn't do horrific behaviors, and I didn't do bad things.
I meant the other.
No, sometimes, in life, you can, like, bad things happen to you, man. You made plans and shit'll just happen. A stray bullet, it hits you in a bad area. Something that everybody goes through it. What do you mean cancer? I don't smoke. I've been so good. What do you mean? I got in a car accident and my left foot is dead. I was a dancer. What are you fucking talking about? The 1,000 things. What do you mean I lost all my money? I got screwed over by, happens all the time. All these things happen. Okay. And I think that you have to always know that it's very easy to be a great guy and a great person when you're holding the championship belt over your head.
Yeah. It's
not so easy when everybody runs for the hills and you failed or you lost. You lost. You lost at the game, at least for now. You got hit in the jaw and you're on the ground. This is why I love fighters so much. You could be the best UFC fighter on the planet, and then guess what? You get knocked out and you're never the same fighter, and you go from number 1 and untouchable to number 7 in a year, and then you're number 14, and then they don't even talk about you anymore. You're quote unquote washed up. I'll tell you something, that there's nothing worse, but you see this all the time. That's how that story ends. But again, the challenge never ends. It never ends. Like you kicked ass. See, I guess this is another thing. Like you get ready, right? You learn how to navigate one aspect of life, and you're tough, and you win, and it's hard, and because you're a fighter, and because you're really, and then chaos hits, but it's in a form you don't recognize, and you have no weaponry for it. You have no armor for it. Now what, dude? Because it always comes at you. It'd be one thing if, like, I'm a fighter and a guy comes up to me and says, let's fight, and I know how to do that. But you're not going to know how to do that if you're in a relationship and your wife, it turns out to be a complete psycho and takes your kids from you, or vice versa. There's some things that you're faced with that you have. There's no playbook, and you're a white belt. You have no idea how to fight this dragon. You've never seen the dragon before, and all your weaponry is no good against the dragon. Like, think about every story that we love. The hero faces like impossible odds. It's like, what? My sword just broke. I don't even, what the hell am I going to do with that thing? It's breathing fire, dude. It's like bigger than a building. What the fuck? I can't even run from it. All right, well, yeah, I know. We got to fight this thing somehow.
That is,
I guess that's.
No, you said so many things, and I'm just reflecting on it within my own life as well. It's the showing up. A lot of people would crumble. We all have challenges, and I like that you say that. But also within this example, which leads into other examples, extremely stressful. And although I haven't gone through anything like that whatsoever, but I've also gone through other experiences where the emotions would be similar, where you feel like the world's kind of against you, you can't do what you want. There's this lack of, like, everything's been taken away from me. There would be probably you weren't feeling creative or funny or all of that. Like, what do you do? And a lot of people, and this is I don't think you realize how impressive it is. A lot of people can just give up and go a different way. But I don't know what that journey I don't know what happened within it, but I know the journey afterwards was great self-discovery, post-traumatic growth. If you subscribe to that, it is such a rare, and this is what inspires me. I love hearing stories when people have gone through the ringer and then you just come out of it. We're not excusing, other people and all that, but coming out and being like, I am so proud of myself of how I showed up. Yes, there were highs and lows, but what I was able to achieve in that pit of depression was phenomenal. It is so exciting to me. And I hope you realize that.
Well, and that's why you should read biographies. That's why you should read about Dostoevsky or Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I think Dostoevsky suffered from terrible seizures. He was sentenced to death. I mean, he went through crazy things and he became one of the greatest authors, period. Right? Okay. And then you have Tolstoy, Tolstoy who dedicated himself to self-perfection, right? So watch this. So Tolstoy dedicates himself to self-perfection. His God was self-perfection. Tolstoy was a total atheist, and all he believed in basically himself, okay? And he worshipped the idea that his goal was he wanted to be mentioned in the same sentences as Freud. He wanted to be the greatest writer. He wanted to be physically fit, and he wanted to be the greatest writer in the world. And he wanted to be rich and famous. And he achieved all of it. He was, in his lifetime, he was very wealthy. He used to work with the peasantry. He was in great physical condition. And he was rubbing elbows with the who's who of the world. And he was recognized as the world's greatest writer in many ways. He was incredibly ambitious. And then when he was 50, forgive me if I'm getting this wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. He was going to go out in the back to his back barn and, like, with a rope, he was going to do something. And he realized that he couldn't go back there, because if he did, he was going to hang himself. And then his friend wanted him to go hunting, and he realized, I can't go in the woods with a gun because I'll put it in my mouth. And he was like, I'm in despair because I've climbed the wall and it's the wrong wall. or I don't like The View, or it's not enough, or holy shit, it starts and ends with me. Now what? And then he noticed that the peasants he would work out with, they all had pains. They'd have a toothache. They had a broken leg that never healed properly. And, they didn't have money, and they were joyous. And then he saw that they would go to church, and the mass was in Latin a lot of times. They didn't even understand it, but they would go to church and come out joyous. And he's like, I just can't believe in God. I don't know how to do this Christ thing. But what he ends the book, there's a book called, I think it's called A Confession. And he ends the book with this idea. It's like he started going to church anyway. He was just like, I'm just going to pretend to believe. And it kind of saved his ass.
Oh.
Isn't that funny? So like, that's the other side of that coin. It's the other side of that coin. Sometimes you don't go through struggle and you get everything you want. Mike Tyson said that. Mike Tyson said, God has a way of giving you everything you want before you're ready.
Yes.
That's how he gets back at you.
Yeah.
Like,
Fuck.
Right? Like, what the fuck? But hey, Tolstoy, you were worshiping a false god. You were worshiping yourself. You can always trace it back to that, I think.
Well, it's also like sometimes what you think you want is not necessarily what you need, and then you get any like big smack in the face. Yeah.
That's also a great movie. The movie starts with the character wants something, but what the character wants is very different than what the character needs.
Yes.
And usually in a great movie, the character gives up what they want and gets what they need. So, I give up the treasure. I give it to somebody else. For the first time, I think about someone else, but I get what I need. And that's Casablanca. That's all those great movies.
One of the movies I'm writing now, that's pretty much the essence of it. And it's really exciting. So when you hear, is that what you use for inspiration? Hearing these stories, reading biographies, these are things that help you get out of these slumps. I know you also do martial arts, you do other stuff. Is this the thing that just, inspires? It sounds like you hear something, you're ready to go. Do you feel it? Or just, this is life, I'm going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I guess I think I think it's really important to stay inspired, and it's really easy to lose your inspiration. And that's why I tell people to read good things and read about great people. And I also think that's also why going down the rabbit hole of faith, religion, it's not just philosophy. Philosophy is a coping mechanism, but philosophy will get you in circles. But I do think that religion, for lack of a better word, and I don't know, it can be Hinduism, Buddhism, it can be Islam, it can be Judaism, it can be Christianity, but all of those religions seem to deal with suffering of some kind. The acknowledgement that life is suffering. Now what? How do we derive meaning from it? How do we derive value from it? When are you going to realize that suffering is necessary? It is never going away. That you will never get there, but that is the point. That's kind of where I have enormous respect for, and probably why faith endures.
So do you have that respect back at you? Looking back, not just the example I've given, whether it was acting or things don't go to plan, you've been rejected a gazillion times. Can you look back at the respect and see from the journey from, let's say, Goldman Sachs to what you've been able to achieve? I can see you smiling. It's pretty phenomenal. Not the average person can do that.
Well, I love hearing it. I love hearing it because I never think about it. But like the other day, you're saying this, and my wife said it. My dad said it to me recently. They were complimentary about some stuff.
Yeah. And
I never ever take a minute to think about that, and then I hear it, and it's nice to hear. I'll take it, but I got work to do.
No, I'm not saying it to blow, and I know you're very humble. I'm not saying it to blow steam up your ass. There's a reason that I wanted to talk to you, and it's not just obviously your achievements, it's the mindset along the way. And that's why I think people also tune in and to this podcast, but also interested in you, is because Your journey is so interesting. And I know you don't necessarily reflect back on it. The highs and lows, I've only given a small snapshot of what's happened in your life and the lessons to not, and we all go through like despair and all of that. But it seems like you pick yourself back up. You're able to flip the switch. You're able to get back to work. You're able to just do what you need to do. And it's such a rare, it's for high achievers as yourself. Very rare. Yeah, I'm just mumbling, but I want you to realize
Yeah,
that you,
man, that's important. That's important to be tough. I don't give a fuck what you do. I'll never break. Fuck you. I'll never break. Like, no. I'll never break. I'll never break. You put me in a hole, I'll never break. Fuck you. That's important. Like that to me, I'm never going to stop writing. I'm never going to stop trying to be funny. I'm never going to stop doing what I do. I know who I am.
are there
Like, sorry, dude.
are there any moments where you're like,
You
I
know?
don't think I can do, just smiling, but you don't feel funny, you can't do stand up, it's game over, or no, this is your purpose.
Well, yeah. You always feel that way. I mean, you're always like, oh fuck. Somebody, like I go through 6 months of writer's block where I'm like, I'm a piece of shit. And you're repeating yourself. You're trying. It's like I'll never write something original again. Of course. And by the way, when it comes to strength, it's also important. Like, like, wow, man, you're strong. Or yeah, well, yeah, it may appear that way, and I may have made the strong decisions, but I promise you, as I was making the strong decisions, I didn't feel strong. You don't feel strong when you're doing it.
In the moment,
That's
correct.
another thing. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you're a mess. You're scared. It's just there's no guarantees. I think that's my definition of courage is that you're terrified. You're shitting your pants, but you do it anyway. Is anything courage? Like when people are like, come on, let's charge that hill, machine guns. That's what a fool does. But intelligence and courage, they're close cousins. And I don't even know if I believe in courage. I think you're always afraid. But if you can realize that maybe that fear is an illusion, or maybe that fear can be overcome with action and with faith, and that's another thing. Like, keep moving forward, man. Keep moving forward. Jordan Peterson, I don't know what it means, but I like it. I think about it. He said, align yourself with the highest truth possible and keep moving. I like that. I'm not quite sure what he means, but I like it. Sometimes you hear that and you're like, yeah. Okay. I'll go with that.
It seems like you've got this guiding light, because like sometimes I don't know how to move forward. How am I going to sell my scripts? I want a TV show, blah, 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 or in life, or how do I get my relationships better? But what I'm also hearing is that within what you need to do. Sometimes we let too many different opinions, or we overthink and we do all these things like, oh, I don't know what to do. But it sounds like you know what it is. You're going to deep within that bunker to find out what it is, and you're just going to honor it.
Yeah, I have faith. I have faith that I have faith that there is a reward. I have faith that the universe, or whoever you want to call it, that those that take bold chances, the bold are rewarded. If you are bold, and if you make the difficult choices, and if you do what scares you, you will come out the other side in a better place. I promise you will. You just will. And that better place might just be a quiet satisfaction in knowing that you prove to yourself who you've wanted to be the whole time. When you go through a challenging time, you should look in the mirror and say, good, this is an opportunity to prove to myself who I know I've been the whole time. I want to be the hero of my own movie.
Are you going to write
I do.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think it'd be great. Are you writing an autobiography? I think there's a lot there.
No, I'm not that interesting. If Steve Jobs didn't write an autobiography, I sure as hell ain't. No way.
We'll agree
I'm not that interested.
Disagree. Based on what, I think we have very similar beliefs in terms of the universe, your belief systems there. I was thinking this is the question, but I wasn't sure how to bring it up, that I've been thinking about for a while. Is your intuition? Is it something you think about, follow? Is it a guiding light? Do you even look at it? Do you care about it? Do you have a relationship with it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think intuition's a very good. There's that idea of that a priori knowledge, right? Like knowledge that's not grounded in experience, knowledge that doesn't come from experience, something you seem to inherently have always known. You know, that's a really cool. That is my. Oh boy. Well, maybe that's the idea. I've said this before. The idea that your best self is clearing their throat in the other room, and you know what you're supposed to do, and you know what's possible. You can imagine your best self. You may not reach it, but you can imagine it. Why is that there? Tell me, why do we have a mind that can imagine perfection? Why do we have a mind that seems to want to reach for that? Why? Why do we have a mind that knows when we're not doing that and is a little bit ashamed? Why? Why am I given that apparatus? Tell me what that voice is. If it's why is it there? Right? These are the questions. Why is it that when I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do? Why is it when I'm not making the courageous choice? When I'm not telling the truth? Why is it that those things always lead in one way or another to my internal destruction, my outward destruction, or at least to my troubles, my inner rumblings of dissatisfaction and turmoil? Why? You know the truth. You know when you know when you made the wrong choice. You know what you're doing. So that's very intriguing to me. You're depressed. You're anxious. Yeah. Well, I bet you know why. I bet you do. Sit with it and think about it for a second. Why? You're not doing something you're supposed to. You're not saying what you're supposed to say. Your relationships are not in order. Thus, you are not in order because you're not speaking. You're not presenting yourself truthfully, completely. I'm telling you, that's what it is. I really believe that. That's the benefit of being alive for more than half a century. That I know. It just is, man.
I see intuition as a gift, however you see it, that there's something, as you said, something within us where we just know. And your intuition is different to my intuition, your path's different to my path. But it's not really spoken about that much, or especially with how you said it. If we all had, and especially me, just more awareness, more courage, more willing to look at it, all of our lives would be so vastly different. It's like such a unique, it's like a superpower that we all have that we've kind of, dulled and dimmed for various reasons. And I want to speak it into existence that, our lives can be so much better if we're willing, to take a bit of the Bryan courage and bravery to actually listen to it.
I think so. I think you're right. Yeah, exactly. I think you're right.
And, also like talking about like honoring your intuition and, following your truth. I find this really interesting. You've been an actor for many years, and I think you said you had 7 significant yeses in like 25 years. That's wild in itself. But as an actor, I think you're still an actor, but you made a transition to focus more on stand-up, and it feels like your life massively changed. That was one of a place for you to just thrive. Once you made that decision, life became more interesting in a sense. And as an actor,
well, yeah.
No, go on.
No, that's true. I think acting, I don't know, acting is its own thing, but there's something about, again, when you're acting, you're usually saying someone else's words, and it's someone else's story. And it's a rather peculiar skill set. It's a weird skill set, especially when you're filming, because you're doing it in pieces. I love stage. Theater's incredible because you can just, it's an athletic event. You just bring the character to life. That's a lot of fun. But when you're doing a film and you're shooting 1 page a day, or you're doing 4 scenes in a day on a TV show, it can get rather tedious, man. I've never been on set where I didn't want it to be over, as I've said many times.
Yeah.
But stand up, that's what I've written. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. It just feels more complete.
And
I love it.
and that shift, because you studied acting. What I've noticed with all the actors I've spoken to, there's an identity. I am an actor. This is who I am. And when you shift that identity, there's an identity crisis. Did you have that? I know Joe Rogan said he doesn't want to do act anymore. It triggered you. Long story short, and you thought about
No,
it.
it's not a no, it's not a crisis. It's just look, when you're an actor, what you are is you have to be in love with human behavior.
Yes.
Acting is behavior, right? So there's something about you have to pay attention to the nuances in human behavior, and that's what we like, and really acting is psychology into behavior. Acting is, and great actors make those unconventional choices. They make those choices. Daniel Day-Lewis in Gangs of New York, when he's such a killer, and he makes the choice to cry over that dead rabbit, find out who killed this poor innocent bunny. And, I mean, you're like this. It's so perverse. He's crying over a poor little innocent bunny, and meanwhile, get yourself a good piece of meat on the way out.
Yeah.
I took my eye out. Jesus Christ! You're like, damn, dude.
Yeah.
Right? So that's I love that. I think that the characters we like the most are the ones that bring to light our most perverse behaviors. Like when you, to be a great actor, you have to have no judgment on human behavior or on anybody. Let me explain. So if I'm playing a serial killer, let's just say I'm going to play Hitler or Stalin, two monsters. If I have a judgment on Hitler, if I have a judgment on Stalin, I can't play him. But if I'm playing Hitler, you can play him like a monster and he wants to kill people. It's not going to be interesting. I'll tell you what's really interesting and sick. You know what Hitler thought about himself? You want to know what Hitler thought about himself? Hitler didn't think of himself as a monster. Hitler thought he was solving a problem. He was solving a major... In Hitler's mind, his twisted mind, he thought of himself as a hero who was solving a problem that the world needed solved, which was, and that problem was called the Jews, or that problem was called the gypsies and the homosexuals and all the people he decided to kill. That's a twisted way to think, but it's a very interesting character to play when you play it that way. Yeah, and the reason all of us, the reason we sort of can't take our eyes off of Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs or something, is because he is incredibly polite and erudite and refined and sophisticated. And oh, by the way, he'll also eat your liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. And the reason we all glean to that is because we have that inside of us. All of us are saints and serial killers. We have the angels of our darker nature and the angels of our best nature.
Yeah.
We are a spectrum. We are a spectrum. Sinner, saint, and everything in between. That is a fact. And I think great actors and great acting, reason we fall in love with them is that they remind us of that fact. There's a freedom to that when you watch it. When you realize that, man, it's okay to revel in perversity. I like watching antisocial behavior. I like watching very evil people because I have that in me. I could be a dictator too. I could be a mass murderer too, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah. How I label it in my mind is the shadow side. We've got good and bad, and it's up to us to, as going back to the very start of the podcast, looking at your subconscious, what's there, working on it, discussing it.
Yeah, man.
I absolutely, I froth it. Have you heard of the expression froth? It might be an Australian thing, like love, froth it. That's
no.
I
like
love
that
this
expression.
Yep, you can add it to your repertoire.
I froth.
Froth, big Aussie terms. And going back to the identity and the acting side, going back to the shift of when you decided I'm going to focus more on stand up, follow your truth. What did that look like for you? Was that like, wow, I've just kind of made a massive decision at the time? What did life look like when you kind of embraced it?
Well, I don't know how dramatic it was. It's just that sometimes when you simplify your life and you decide to get really good at one thing, as opposed to trying to do 3, 4, 5 different things, it can be rather liberating. I just don't want to. I don't want to regret. I don't want to leave things on the table. I don't want to say I could have been. I want to surprise myself. I want to. Again, I want to look back and say, man, I did something original here. I did something I'm really proud of. Like this next special, I'm so pumped about. Honestly, like I think it's the best thing I've ever done. And as I watch it come together, and I get these ideas as I'm driving or I'm walking or I'm even talking to somebody, I'm like, oh damn, oh shit, that's what I've been talking about. That's the connective tissue. That's why I started with this, and that's how that I just connected the beginning and the end. Like I just created a circle. I just created a complete circle. Fuck. What? Took me 3 years because, anything worthwhile takes forever. But I did it. Now the crisis is after January, after I shoot it, I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to start all over again.
Oh, you've done it many times before.
I have.
It's also so inspiring in that we have kind of this, it's, Hollywood and other people, the media, there's kind of this narrative, if you buy into it and I don't, that as you get older, life's all downhill. And then you hear a story of this is the best thing that you've done. You've been doing comedy for a while. It's not, I run out of ideas and it's over. I really don't buy into that. I think with age, wisdom, experience, learnings, it only gets, much better.
Dude, I went to a Picasso exhibit. It was what he had painted when he was he painted it when he was 90. And he was painting on a level, the same level he was painting during his Cubist era. And again, the reason I know that is I went through, the museum with the guy teaching you what all these paintings were. Holy shit. That dude never stopped producing. I think he called it sweeping the alley. Picasso said, like, war, cool, famine, sickness, all of it. Yeah, I just keep painting. That's what he did. And at 90, the dude was painting on the highest level imaginable, still surprising himself, still contributing, still doing and making the world a more beautiful place. Yeah, he was a flawed person. Fuck off.
We all are. There's not one person.
Yeah. I mean, who was it? That I think she's Australian. Nanette.
The comedian.
That woman.
Hannah Gatsby.
I don't know. Hannah Gatsby. She's calling him Picasso, asshole. Because I guess he was a flawed guy. Okay, I get it. He was awesome. Maybe he wasn't perfect. He was awesome. Okay, he was awesome. Thank God for Picasso. I'm sure you were an art historian and you've got your criticisms and all that. But when you can do what he's done, okay, come talk.
The backlash from the Australians, they're coming for you. That she's worshipped you. But I get what you're saying. Every single human.
I don't care about Hannah. I don't care about Hannah Gatsby. I'm not going bad on her. I'm just saying. I'm using her as an example. It's like you can criticize anybody, but give Picasso his due is all I'm saying.
But also,
I'm sure she knows more about him than I do in an artistic context. But he's still Picasso. Fuck off.
It's also within that our teacher at school many years ago, she would worship Tiger Woods, and he's phenomenal in his area, and you can really take a lot out of it. Then she found out he cheated on his wife with God knows how many people, and she came and apologized to us and said, "This is not a man." And she goes, "I'm so sorry that I made you guys worship him, or he was an idol," whatever she said. And no one cared at all. Like, it didn't go, "Oh no, my life's ruined because he cheated on people." You can pick and choose from people as well. And we don't need to worship or idolize anyone. We've all got flaws. It was just so ridiculous. She was almost in tears when she found out. I was just crying with laughter.
And that's fair. That's fair. I think she felt let down, and maybe the lesson there, I just thought of it. Maybe the lesson is not to worship anybody.
Yeah,
right?
I'm with that.
Maybe again, we're back to that. Maybe the lesson is that, yeah, they're really good in one thing, but they may be completely ghastly in other things, or they might be assholes. Like Salvador Dali was supposed to be an awful, ghastly human being. He still painted melting clocks. He's still a badass, right? So.
Well, what I see is with everyone, whether it's me, you, or anyone else, you take what you like and you disregard the rest. There's obviously merit. Everyone's got some good stuff and some bad stuff, and I think that's how I look at it. I can't worship anyone. I don't believe in like the Messiah complex that someone's going to necessarily come and save you. There's some great people that have done, unfortunately, some bad things. We learn, we grow, and you're a great example of like where you are willing to grow and learn along the way. And I think that's what inspires me. That's what inspires people. There's no one on this planet that is brilliant in everything and just excretes rainbows and kindness and unicorns. Yeah.
No, I hate moralists too. I hate moralists.
Yeah.
I hate people that are like, these virtue signaling a-holes that you just constantly see, Oh yeah, you're just sitting there criticizing your keyboard. You first, motherfucker. You first.
There's,
if you're so pristine and so good, which you're not, and if you are, you're a bore. And you haven't lived. Okay, your life should be a fucking circus. So get out of my face. Shut up. Shut up.
That's a interesting take. Your life should be a circus.
You chaperone. You're a chaperone in the corner telling the kids not to dance. Go fuck yourself. That's what I have to say.
I'm gonna be playing. That's gonna be my ringtone.
I'm sorry, my language is bad. Am I allowed to swear here? I apologize. You can
no,
beat
we're
my
not.
language.
Nah, you can, yeah, yes, of course. I want to tie up a few points as well. Going on, we're building a bit of a picture for you. I want to go back to the acting side just before I forget it. The rejection. How did you handle the rejection?
Because I expected it. Because with acting, it's like playing football and expecting not to hurt your knee. It's like boxing. I mean, if I'm going to get in a boxing ring, I'm going to get hit in the face. If you don't want to get punched in the face, boxing ain't your sport. So it's the same thing. You want to be an actor? You got a better chance of being a senator. You want to be an actor and successful? All right. I hope you don't mind hearing the word no all the time. And it's personal. Your teeth suck. You don't have a good face. You're not tall enough. You're not, there's 1,000 things.
Yeah.
And they're all right. It's what it is, bro. It's what it is. You want to be a comic? Well, you're going to have, when you start out, you're going to have some quiet rooms. You're going to think it's funny and you're going to try some shit and it's going to suck because it's going to get quiet real quick. And your comedy might work for a room full of white people from Canada, but it ain't working for a bunch of black people in Baltimore or a bunch of working class, Irish, Italian, and Czech people in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So, I just expected it. I expected it. Every yes was a huge surprise. Kind of like they wanted me? Really? Wow, man, what'd I do right? Because I've done a lot of things where I did everything right in that room and they were like, they never called. Then I walk in and I'm tired and I just do something and I get a job that pays me, pays my rent for the year. Like, what? How'd that happen? I don't know. Kept showing up.
Isn't it crazy? Because as an actor, you expect the no, but there's also it can feel like daggers. Oh, we like you, but as you said, a little bit too small. You're like, well, what am I supposed to do? And it's so much is out of your control. Or stand-up, it's within your control. But did that like drive you nuts? So you're like, this is the game. I signed up for it. This is how it's going to be.
Yeah. Success. Yes, success is that way. In general, you might be a better actor or funnier or whatever than somebody who's flying privately because they just something about they might have been better at business or they might have been seen at the right time or whatever it might be. You just can't. That's not in your control. It's not.
But it's just not. Did you get it earlier on? Because most people I've spoken to, it had taken a long time and the rejections were brutal. A lot of nights crying in the shower, eating the ice cream, and then something kind of happened.
I don't know. I'll say this. my father, tough guy, Marine, tough guy. And
Potentially CIA.
oh yeah, probably. I really wanted this job, and I came so close, and then I didn't get it, and it was devastating. I was in Utah, and I finally got the call, and they go, they're going another way, and it would have made a big difference. It would have been like I could have bought a house for the money, but also I hadn't worked in a while, and I was like, I'm gonna quit. I just couldn't take it. It was so bad, but I didn't get the job, and I got the call, and we sat there, and I said, well, on to the next, And my dad said, Jesus, man, I don't know how you do it. Like you have such resilience. Like, I don't know how I could never do that. And it didn't dawn on me. Like, again, you're like, but this is what I do. Like, this is just what I do. This is what, I when I get a yes, it's like incredible. It's what I mean when I say I got 7 yeses and 1,000 no's. I'm not necessarily exaggerating. That's probably the truth.
Still, are you able to feel it, or is it more this knowing that I've signed up?
No, it sucks.
Yeah,
it sucks. But again, it sucks, but it passes. It sucks, but on to the next. It sucks, but there's always next time. And there, it's true. There are people that can't take that. There are people that just stop. They just quit. By the way, I will tell you this. When I got the Goldbergs, which ended up being a job that lasted 7-8 years because I ended up getting my own show.
Yeah.
But I was at a point where I quit acting. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I quit. I'm just going to do stand-up. And I told a famous director friend of mine, I go, I'm going to quit acting. I'm fucking done. I was so mad. I was at the beach. She was with her kid. I was with my kid. I was like, I quit acting. Fuck acting. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't hear another no. Oh, what a surprise. And I got the part.
Isn't that crazy?
Because somebody turned it down. A friend of mine turned the part down. And they said, let's go with Bryan Callen. Let's try him. You know why? Because I had auditioned for this group of people, especially this one big producer. I had auditioned for him. And I didn't get the part, but he always liked me. He was like, he's good. He was just wrong for this. He's good. He's just wrong for this. I kept showing up. Right? And then this thing comes along. They go, what about Bryan Callen? He's always good, man. Maybe this is the one. And they gave it to me. They offered it to me. And then it turned into a job that lasted 7-8 years. I think 8 years. I'm still making money off it.
Oh, really?
Crazy. Yeah. With residuals, because it went all over the world, How crazy is that?
But isn't it crazy? You're at that moment where you're about to say no, and then you get this life-changing opportunity. And I've had quite a few people on the podcast as well. It sounds like it was a lot of fun. Sometimes the universe can just provide just like that.
Yeah, what's that expression? The dawn always comes right before the darkest hour of night, right? Yeah. You can say all these things, but it's helpful. It's helpful. Maybe everything is a fractal of itself, so.
Or the universe was saying, you know what, we need you in this. We need Bryan Callen as an actor. We can't get rid of him.
That's right, baby. I'll take that too.
And then, you get a extremely rare opportunity. In fact, it's like never happened, like maybe Young Sheldon, where because you do really well in your character, you get a spin-off show. Can you tell me a little bit about the highs and lows of that? Because you think it's not going to happen, then it happens. Is it actually happening? It doesn't happen. Then
that's what happened, man. It's your dream. Once I got my own show, that was what I came to LA for.
Where were you before?
I'm sorry?
Where were you before?
Well, I was doing the Goldbergs, but I came to LA initially in 1995 because I wanted my own show.
Yeah.
I wanted, my dream was to just get to a point where they built a show around my character, right? And that's what Schooled was, and it was just like, it was incredible. So that's, again, like, I don't know, it's always a surprise. Again, your character kind of resonates with enough people, and they say, hey, what about a spinoff? And then they do it, and then it just doesn't go. And then they do it again, and they air it. and people watch it, and then ABC goes, you know what? We want an order. We want a pickup order. And then you do 2 years of it, and then COVID happens, and it goes away. And then the business changes, and TV changes.
But you're just saying like it's a matter of fact. The high of getting it's such a unique. I know. I want you to work on this, Bryan. Enjoy the success that you've had. Be proud of it, because getting the Goldbergs phenomenal in itself. But then getting your own spin-off show because of what you brought to it. I can't name anything besides Young Sheldon. And I don't even want to compare it to Young Sheldon because I don't like that show. But anyway, you get that. The highs, the fulfillment, the joy. I know you don't love all aspects of acting, but that must feel pretty good. Then, unfortunately, the end. How do you feel when it ends?
For me, it was like a combination, you know. I love the people I worked for. I love doing it, but God, you want to talk about being busy when you're doing a podcast, you're doing a TV show, and you're doing stand-up. Like you just don't have time for anything.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's nuts. But yeah, success can be overwhelming, and it doesn't feel like success. It just feels like busy. So,
interesting.
But when it's over, you know, when it, you know, again, I have to be honest. I expect it to be over. Like that's the game. That is the game. It never works out. It never does. And oh, by the way, I don't know how many people have had the most successful show you can imagine, starred on the most successful show, whether it's Game of Thrones, Modern Family, The Sopranos, and they really never work again. Not in a meaningful way. They don't get a second one. That is almost always the case. So please understand that too. You know why? Because acting. You know why? Because Hollywood. You know why? Because show business. You know why? Because life. That's it.
It's an interesting perspective. I had quite a few Seinfeld, the top reoccurring actors on, not the main cast. And, you know, there's kind of like this downfall or depression or fog where I'm never going to work another job like that. And then the years, the journey, the process of being like, that's okay. I can enjoy Seinfeld for what it is, but I can still enjoy another show. It will never be Seinfeld, and that's okay. But still, it can be very scary to be, I might never get another TV show. I might never work. I might never blah, 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 blah.
Every actor, and I've known some big actors, I don't care how successful, I promise you, every single one of them, after they're done, when it says, that's a wrap on X, Y, and Z, everybody claps. Every single one of them, after about 2 days goes, what if I never work again?
I know, the acting curse.
I mean, every one of them. I'm never going to work again. They're all terrified that their career's over, and a lot of times they're right. Save your money. Yeah,
save your money. That's funny.
Yeah, I that's why I never had loyalty to acting. Acting was always my the girlfriend that cheated on me. You know, stand-up was my stand-up was my ride or die.
Wasn't your mistress?
Yeah. No, stand-up was my ride or die. Acting was always that cruel girl that just never loved me. She dragged me through the dirt.
That's amazing.
Acting was always the girl. I was like standing outside her door trying to play a song on my bad guitar with snot running down my face and, you know, all that. Literally what it was.
Oh, that's great. I reckon what we'll do to wrap up the podcast is to do a rapid fire segment.
Great.
Do you still get nervous performing stand-up comedy?
Never.
What does it feel like before you get up on stage?
My problem is energy is my problem. Sometimes I just get lethargic. It's weird. It's so weird.
What's your I won't comment on these. What's your relationship with new material when, you know, perhaps there's someone in the audience or you're at a big club, there are a lot of people there. You know, you want to do well.
I never worry about it. I'm not there for the laughs. I'm there to try to be original. I'm there to surprise myself. I'm there to discover something. That's really what it's about.
Have you ever had, sorry, I'm going off topic, but have you ever had that moment? Because when you reach a certain level of success where you're like, I have to just keep on killing. I can't do new material because then people won't think I'm funny, or growth. I'm here, this self-expression.
No. I don't care about that. I'll do new material right now. I don't care.
That is,
I give a shit about that.
I love that.
Yeah.
What brings the best creative content out of you?
Anxiety, pain, uncertainty.
And how do you let it go?
Um, I love the Einstein's quote, criticized by creating. The minute I feel any kind of like unhelpful energy in my body, whether it's anxiety, depression, uncertainty, despair, um, something like laziness, I immediately take it. It's just energy, and I put it right into creating. I start going over a part of my act that I'm not quite there yet with.
Nice.
I just refocus my eye. It's just energy.
You are a master. What do they call it? Like an alchemist? Isn't that what an alchemist does? Transmutes energy.
Maybe. I mean, alchemy is really the pursuit of gold, right? Trying to create gold in a lab. But yeah, I suppose. I mean, that would be the idea. Yeah.
Did you ever think?
Use whatever you have. Use whatever is there. Yeah.
Did you ever think you'd have this many specials?
Yeah, I think so. I should maybe have more, but I was spending so much time acting and doing other things, right? Writing and trying to be the great screenwriter and actor.
Any screenplays that you thought would get made and didn't?
Oh, sure, all of them.
Oh no, don't say that to me. I've got about 10 ready to go.
No, I don't know a writer. I don't know a writer worth their salt. I don't know of any one great writer who doesn't have a chest full of scripts. And I mean, you should have 50 scripts that nobody has looked at. Writers write. Writers write. Keep writing.
What did you learn from your first comedy special? I think there was a regret there about preparation, even though I think it's funny.
Well, that first special was English on a Ball. That first special was a lot of tricks. First special was too long, not edited. It was just a lot of. It was high octane. It's like a race car going full speed. Just like, but there wasn't enough of a theme, man. It was just like I couldn't believe I could do it. I couldn't believe I was making people laugh. I was just throwing shit on the wall. I was like, I don't know. This is what I want to do. I want to pretend I'm riding a horse. I want to do shit. I couldn't believe it was working. I want to pretend I'm wrangling cattle. I don't fucking know. I'm an ostrich now. I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I just couldn't believe it. I wasn't confident enough to just sit still. I'll tell you that much. So,
what does martial arts do for your soul?
Reminds me of how tough I'm not. I was rolling the other day and getting squashed like a bug, and that's always it's just a nice reminder of how vulnerable I am, what a bitch I am.
We'll agree to disagree. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Probably still on stage doing stand-up, but not living in LA. And I'm going to leave that vague because I do have plans. But it might be. There's a chance in 10 years I'm spending all my time on my children and no time on myself.
Ooh. Austin, baby.
If I can afford it.
If you can afford it.
Maybe.
Last few. What's been your favorite acting role? You may have answered it.
Oh, I mean, you'd have to. It was really mostly on stage, but let's say my favorite acting role. I don't know, man. I don't know.
It can be on stage.
I don't know if I ever. I know that there were certain challenging roles, but I suppose I really did enjoy doing Coach Mellor on the Goldbergs and Unschooled. I really enjoyed it.
Great
It was
character.
fun. Yeah. I liked working with the people. It was really fun. Yeah.
For the 40-year-old virgin who knocked up Sarah Marshall and felt super bad about it, I can see you smiling. What is the direction they give you?
Well, I should be arrested for doing that. I should be arrested for doing that movie. But I loved the director and I love the people I worked with. But they should have arrested me for that. You're not allowed to just make a movie like that. It's ridiculous. So,
what is the direction they give you? Do you know, because you were kind of like the straight man, so you were acting normal, but everyone else overacts. What's the direction they give on a set like that?
I think that was a controlled fall. I don't remember any direction. I just remember, I remember just, it was just like, what is this? This
Congratulations. I
is
would have loved to do
yeah.
something like that. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, it was so insane. There was a part where I think I was coming and they had a guy there who was there. That woman, the prop woman was squirting silicone gel at the camera in giant wads. And I was like, oh. And I just, my friend had brought his daughter who was like 18 because she wanted to be an actress.
Holy
And
shit.
that was the day they chose. And I was just like, Brian, you need anything? I was like, yeah, I need a towel and a priest because career's over. Like, what the fuck am I doing here? Yeah. So that was high art. That was called high art.
I love it. It's great for a laugh. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
Well, maybe, the trick of life is to try to balance the idea that don't take yourself too seriously, right? And that's important, but do your best. Like, in a way, when you do your best and you try to be great or you try to surprise yourself, you are taking yourself seriously. Ultimately taking yourself seriously. But expect to fall, expect to be embarrassed, expect to embarrass yourself, expect to do things that you might look back on and go, God, I have to cringe. I'm wearing a blonde wig and a Speedo in high-heeled sneakers and I'm dancing on national TV. Like, what the fuck, Brian? What the fuck? But that's kind of who you have to be. That's kind of who you have to be if you want to be an artist. You've got to try shit and you got to fail and look really bad and embarrassed in front of people. It's, it just is. I don't know. I mean, when you succeed, they're going to want you to fail anyway. Because you know why? Because you remind them of how lazy they are. You remind them that they're not doing anything gutsy. So they want to bring you back down to your level. And we all have that in us.
Show the mirror.
Yeah, bro.
Last question before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you. What is the one question I should have asked you?
The one question you should have asked me? I don't know. I think we hit all of them. I think that's probably, because I tend to fill in the blanks there. I'm always, I don't know if I repeat myself, but
No.
you find yourself, maybe the question to ask is what is the primary question in your brain? What is the one question you're always asking yourself?
And
What is the one question? I think most of us are generally concerned with one question. There is a primary question in our brain that we are always trying to answer. Am I lovable? Will I fail? Am I good enough? All of those unhelpful questions. And I think you can reprogram that question. I think you can ask yourself a much better question,
And what's that?
What is the best version of myself?
Brilliant.
What action should I take today to get closer to who I really want to be, who I really am? What do I have to? What if I keep showing up? Who am I going to be? Who do I really want to be in my mind's eye? What is available to me? That might be the best question.
I love that because it's reframing the negative to a positive and it's giving you a leading question for change. That is,
Very
I'm
important.
adding that to my repertoire. Thank you.
It's very important. And I'm telling you, most people walk around with a very unhelpful question in their head. And we all do it. We all do it. What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? What if it all falls apart and it paralyzes you and you end up taking no action? You end up just being a what if kind of person. You end up being somebody who says today a lot. Fuck you. Someday is now. So change that primary question. What action can I take today to get me closer to who I want to be tomorrow? What action can I take today that'll make me the person that my children look at and tell stories about? My dad was a bad motherfucker. My mother was an amazing woman. I want to be that. I want my kids to say that stuff. I do, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Before we go, how can people follow you, your podcast, the gazillion things you do?
My podcast is Off Limits. You can get it anywhere you get podcasts. It's called Off Limits. And you can get me at Bryan Callen, BryanCallen.com. If you're in the States, I'm going to Calgary. I'm going to Canada this weekend. I'll be at Yuck Yucks. And I'm touring until January, where I'm going to shoot my special at the Mothership in January. I'm excited. And there it is, man. There it is. So, Bryan, BryanCallen.com.
That will all be in the episode.
All my tour dates. Yeah.
I'll put all of that in the episode notes below so people can check you out. You're an inspiration. I don't think you understand how motivating and empowering you are. This was a great joy. Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
I appreciate you, my brother. I appreciate it. Stay in touch, Michael.
I love how Bryan encourages us to be the hero of our own story, not simply a bystander watching as time passes by. To live one's life to the fullest with truth and presence. Bryan has a very contagious mindset and explains how often in life we focus on negative questions that don't necessarily help propel us forward. He highlights how we can reprogram the negative questions or the negative loop thinking to questions such as, what is the best version of myself? What action should I take today to get closer to who I really want to be? If I keep showing up, who will I really be? Bryan not only frames the negative questions to a positive one, but a leading question to help us to incite positive change. As Bryan says, how will you show up today? How will you be the hero of your own story? Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.